Thank you, Julian, VJ, Irene, and Gap for putting it together and inviting me to come over. Um, so Julian was talking about stats, so I'm going to give you more stats. I'm going to give you lots and lots of stats. So for the next half an hour or so, you're going to be seeing a lot of stats, and your eyes are going to go blurry. And welcome to my world. That is the future. And you guys are going to, we live in, we're going to compete on analytics. That was Compete with Analytics. That was a book. And if you should look that up. It's a great book on analytics and how the future of businesses are going to compete on analytics. So I'm going to share with you some data today on a number of different things. Digital everywhere. I had a quick chat with Gap just now. The term online, internet, digital, and digital is sort of all-encompassing. It starts to be everything now. TVs are starting to be internet connected. Obviously the mobile phones and stuff like that. So digital is everything. A bit about ComScore. We do our online market research on digital, and we have data for all over the world. I'm not going to bore you with this kind of stuff, but we are taking over the world. Sorry, that's your line. Never mind. So just a quick look at internet users online. These are people age 15 plus, access from home and work. So it doesn't include internet cafes, which is actually quite big in India, China, and some of the Southeast Asian markets. But it's been growing over the year. So this is year on year, September last year to September this year. So it's a good growth here. Asia has grown a lot as well, and a lot of that stuff is in China. Europe has some decent growth, and that's actually Russia, because Russia is still considered part of Europe. And North America, really not much, kind of flatlined. And Middle East, Africa is still growing, as well as Latin America. So developing, emerging markets are still picking up, and internet penetration increases as PC cost goes down, netbooks, and things like that, so people are able to afford. That's not me. One of the things we also looked at is the distribution of age of internet users. And there's some interesting things here. If you look here, the worldwide, roughly about 30% here, 15 to 24, 25%, 24 to 34, and so on, and even up to the 55 plus. Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, very young crowd. So if you look at 15 to 34, that's anywhere from 60 to 70% of people online are in that age group, the younger age group below 35. And then you have the more mature markets like Hong Kong and Singapore, where this starts to be very, very reflective of the actual population, right, as everybody gets online. So another thing, so emerging markets, very young, tend to skew towards the young. So I was looking at just some stats on how this distribution was, and I found some really interesting numbers. So from here downwards, we were looking at the age bands, 15 to 24, males, females, and across. And one of the cool things I found was, obviously, you kind of know it. Males, 15 to 24, consume a lot of pages, right? They go online, they spend a lot of time there. But the other segment that's actually quite high are the females, 45 to 54. There aren't as many of them online. And this is a worldwide view of things. But they're consuming just almost as much pages per person as the males 15 to 24. Then we look at Asia Pac, just looking at Asia Pac by itself. And they're actually higher than the males, the average male 15 to 24. So, 45 plus women going online, looking at Flickr, looking at Facebook, looking at Picasa, monitoring their children, grandchildren, or whatever. But they're high as well, and so are the 55 plus and the males 55 plus as well. So the index higher, whereas the people in the middle, our age working group, are actually consuming not as much as the younger and the older crowd. Is that interesting? Did you know that? All right, social. Can't do a presentation without talking about social. interesting stats here from our US. This is Facebook and the kind of pages that are consumed on Facebook, the kind of content in the US that's consumed on Facebook. So it's a nice share of the homepage, news feeds, some photos. That's all other photos are down here, some apps, games, and looking at people's profiles. I took a look at total minutes, share of minutes of Facebook in terms of what people do online. So worldwide, roughly 13%, 14% of minutes are spent on Facebook. Asia Pac, 6.9. But then you look at individual markets like India, Malaysia, and Indonesia, 20% here and 30%. Right, so in Manila, in KL, they're spending 30% of their time on Facebook. The number here, Asia Pac 6.9, that's because Facebook's not in China. Very simple explanation. And to some extent Vietnam, but they're unblocking that as well. So interestingly, what I would assume starts to happen, as with other markets, is that that number will eventually go down. You know, there's only so much you can do on Facebook before you're like, I need, there's this other things out. I need to go live my life, right? And that will happen. But Facebook as a marketing phenomenon, we always talk about the fans, right? The fans. Companies create fan pages and they talk about their fans. But until recently, no one's really talked about the friends of fans. Right? And why is that important? Because if you have a fan page for your brand, you're posting something, it goes into your fans' newsfeed, but it also goes into your friends of fan newsfeed. So the exposure is actually more than what you would think if you're only counting fans. Right? So I took a look at just Malaysia and some big brands in Malaysia. And this is, so for example, AirAsia here. It's roughly 300-some thousand fans who were exposed during the month of September to a news feed or an article or something like that. They actually have 1 million registered fans in Malaysia, right? But not everyone gets exposed to whatever they push out. So this is actual exposures. At the same time, up here, in the light blue, are friends of fans. So they're getting double exposure from the friends of fans who are out there as well. So the exposure of their fan page is actually much higher than they had previously thought. Same thing with McDonald's to a lesser extent. And Hot FM, it's a radio station, and CIMB as well. Right. So it starts to be very interesting when you consider the friends of fans and understanding their exposure. Google Plus, we did a quick look at Google Plus when it first launched, and just to see how fast it got picked up. And it was, within the first month, it was huge. 6 million in the US, India, Canada, UK, as well. It picked up a bit slower over here, but by now it's actually up there. How many people have Google Plus accounts? You sure? He was very slow in raising his hand, so I wasn't sure if Julian had one. You're not in my circle, are you? No. One of the things that we looked at is socially enabled ad impressions. Right? So these are across in the US, UK, and France, companies, the percentage of their ads that they've actually put like or plus buttons on. Right, so that if they see an ad, a display ad, they can actually click on that and say they like it or all that stuff. So you start to see more and more of that. And I expect you guys to start doing it here too in Asia. But this, very much brand specific in terms of who decides to do that, which General Mills, 84%, right? Shop direct online, which is sort of makes sense. News and information. So from social, we go on to see the news, consumption. One of the interesting slides that we had was consumption of local sites, in India, Mexico, Israel, Philippines, by people outside of that country, right? And in India, for example, Times of India, HT Media, Hindustan Times, 38%, 27%. like, how important is this? For marketers in India in particular, this is what's called the NRI segment, non-resident Indian segment, right? It's huge. These are, rich Indians who are living outside and are contributing to the economy. A lot of marketers want to get to them. And the idea is to say there's actually a lot. And you look at the Philippines as well, right? A lot of consumption outside. A lot of Filipinos who live outside because one of the major exports of Philippines is people, right? Whether it's Middle East or Singapore, all over, right? And they, do you consume? Do you Inquirer, Philstar, or another one? No, you don't care. Have you changed your passport yet? No. Okay. We also looked at the duration of ad exposures. How long do people view an ad or are exposed to an ad? And it always varies. We found that it varies by the content of the site. So education, news information, social networking sites are indexed higher, 100 being the average. Retail sites, auction sites, instant messenger sites are lower. This is in relation to time spent and things like that and how long the page is and things. And so that was quite interesting. Another related thing is blog sites, penetration of blog sites, or blogs rather, in various markets. So Taiwan, 86%, Brazil, 85%, South Korea, Turkey, and so on. Singapore is 73%. A lot of that's probably Mr. Brown. But actually, WordPress, a lot of it's there. And one of the things I hypothesize out of here is that these are markets, except for Singapore, these are markets where English is not the primary language, right, of spoken language that people use. So the internet is, 60–70% English content, right? So in markets like that, there's a need for local content, and people who write will get the consumption, whether they write blogs or whatever it is, right? And it's cheap, it's easy to set up a blog site and things like that. So, my hypothesis is that that's because these markets are non-English speaking markets. Entertainment, the YouTube, the various sites that you go to watch your videos. And this is online video consumption, videos per viewer, hours per viewer. In various markets. So Japan is right up there, number of hours per viewer. Germany, Turkey, Hong Kong's up here as well. Index here, Canada, they view a lot of videos. Not much else to do there. US, 229. Singapore, we're the same 123. We spend a lot of time there. And India, where bandwidth is an issue, is a bit less as well. But Hong Kong up there with their own sites and stuff like that is actually quite interesting. Just showing how big YouTube is, right? This is US traffic, minutes per viewer during a month. YouTube is under Google Sites, and that's just a number of videos and a number of minutes per viewer. It's just huge. And as they've just launched in Asia for the YouTube in the Philippines and Singapore. And so within Asia, I took a look at the video sites just to see what it is. So obviously our friends YouTube, a lot of video. So there's 592 million people online in Asia. YouTube gets that much percent, roughly about a third, a fourth rather. And then Youku, To-Do. Who here goes to Youku or To-Do? You have to be Chinese speaking. Oh, so there too. Oh, okay. So DRM works well there. And then you see the Next Media, which is very strong in Hong Kong and Taiwan, right? It's Apple Daily, AtNext, that stuff. And then TVB also launched their Catch-Up TV as well, so they're getting a good penetration in there as well. And most of that is in Hong Kong market. CineMSN, obviously. Who here is on CineMSN? Nobody? Wrong demographic group? Yeah, my wife. in the 35 to 45 group. Females. Yeah, they do their catch-up TV on there. Tauntaun, so that's Media Prima, TV Tigas, TV3s, on catch-up service, ABS-CBN for the Philippines, and Stomp, which is more of a microblogging site. Money. All right, who here buys online? Come on, everybody. Everybody. Oh, jeez. Get them out. Get them out. Who here books online with Google? No. This was stat we put out. E-commerce spend in the U.S. Over time, year by year, how much people are spending online. So we split out travel and retail. Travel is a big segment, but that's not kind of under the normal e-commerce. And obviously, we see it's growing like mad here, and then it dips in 2009, right? The economy. Then it starts to pick back up again. And last year, Cyber Monday last year, which would have been exactly Monday a year ago, was the first time where in the U.S. it went over $1 billion in one day of sales of online sales and online. So Cyber Monday was just over. So we just released this this morning, where Cyber Monday this year was 1.25, so 22% over last year. So another $1 billion day in the U.S. and it's just huge. Number dollar in sales is here. Buyers, millions of buyers. So the number of buyers went up by 11%. Dollars per buyer went up 9%. So people are spending a bit more online, but less transactions per buyer.
How do you measure that?
Same time we measure everything. Panel. Yeah. 1 million in the U.S. Yeah. We have another chart that shows the tracking of us with the U.S. Department of Commerce. It's pretty cool. So in Asia Pac, I don't have the million panel, so I can't, and there's not that much transactions for me, so the incidence rates are less. So we look at proxy, so visitation to retail sites, for example. So a year ago in October, so in Asia Pac, so there's a 25% change. More people are going to retail sites. A lot of them doing research, but also buying as well. And Japan up 9.4. Vietnam's gone up a lot. More credit cards. Indonesia's gone up. Malaysia's gone up. Hong Kong's okay. Philippines, Singapore. How many people think they've bought more online this year than last year online in Singapore? Not quite 20%. Travel. So travel visitation, this is June numbers, has grown across the board. And the reason why I look at travel, as I said before, is travel is in e-commerce. And it's one of the first things that most people buy online, right? Why? Because the deals are there. You know it, right? It's much easier to do it. You don't want to bother calling up the travel agents anymore, right? The deals are online. You can actually find everything online. So you see a lot of travel stuff online. It tends to be one of the first things that people put their credit card down. And the other indicator is usage of banking, online banking. If you're comfortable enough to bank, you'll be comfortable enough to actually make a transaction. So across Asia Pacific, increase in visitation to banking sites or people, 20%. Malaysia has gone up. Malaysia is actually quite a huge number in terms of actual people. Percentage-wise, it's not that high in terms of the population, but it's actually quite a high. And Maybank is one of the top sites, local sites in Malaysia. Vietnam's gone up as well. Hong Kong has gone up. Oh, sorry, this is Reach, gone up here. Indonesia has gone up. So as services start to come out, in a lot of these markets, the online banking is just not easy, right? It's starting to be easy in Indonesia. And in Singapore, we're kind of flatline. We all pay our bills and stuff like that. Another interesting one. I pulled this one out yesterday. Payment gateways. Visitation payment gateways. And this is Alipay. Who here knows Alipay? Where Alipay? Okay, Alipay is owned by Alibaba, which also owns Taobao. So when you talk about e-commerce in China, they have the gateway because they already connected with all the debit cards and all that kind of stuff. And the other one is QQ, right? So that's why these two guys are the biggest there. So when you talk about e-commerce in China, it's these two guys, and that's the kind of traffic they're generating. PayPal, obviously, PayPal accounts. The Visa and MasterCard. This traffic is some of it's promotional stuff, but some of it is the verified by Visa. Right? And if that shows, we track that too. And then you see the money brokers, and you see the local ones like eNets, WorldPay, RBS. Right? So it's very interesting to sort of track this stuff as it goes forward. All right, mobile. Last bit. You guys like zoned out already? Way too much, but there's more. This is share of internet page views, so consumption of pages by non-computer devices. So everything from tablets to mobiles to internet TVs to anything else, PlayStations that have internet access, Wii's, all that stuff. So in the US, 6.7% of traffic is on these non-computer devices. Singapore, 6.2. Singapore's right up there. UK is 5.7. Japan is here. We look down here. India's here. And all the way down to Brazil. Diving deeper into that, looking at iOS. So all the blues here are a share of iOS. And that iOS includes iPhone, iPad, iPod Touch, and this is everybody else. This is not market share. Right? This is share of consumption of pages. Right? So I want to be very clear on that, because market share is a whole different story. Sorry?
Isn't this a proxy of market share?
The usage is very different. We've seen different kinds of usage for different owners of devices and things like that. So that's a different report, which we'd have to pull out. But yeah, no, it's not necessarily so. So this is share of the non-computer traffic. So we just take the non-computer traffic by these three markets, and we split it up to see mobile, tablets, and other. Right? So in Singapore, a lot of mobile, right? And then we have another 30% tablet, and then so the other. Right? Remember, other being internet TVs, PSPs, any kind of other devices that it doesn't classify. Malaysia, huge as well. Hong Kong, tablet, 42% tablet. These things are not quite to scale, so. Because it starts at 40 here. So Hong Kong, there's a lot of tablet traffic. Now we look at OS, at iOS, and Android, and other smartphones, and feature phones. So there's a lot of feature phone traffic here. So the dark blue is iPhone, so it's a lot of iPhone traffic. Then there's Android traffic, other smartphones, and whatnot. And Singapore is, again, quite high for the iPhone traffic. And one of the things we'd also look at is consumption of content. What kind of content do these people tend to consume? And in Singapore, this is just for newspaper. In Singapore, there's a lot of newspaper access as well. 3.1, 2.9 here. And there's various devices. So I always want to reach back and say, wait, there's markets that's called feature phones. Anybody know what a feature phone is? You guys had one. I'm sure you guys all had one at one time, right? These are the old Java OS, I think the Nokia 8210 and things like that, right? So these are the Java OS. They can surf, and in various markets, India, it's still huge, right? And Argentina, Malaysia, it's still there's a lot of phones that are the older phones, right? And as time goes on, this will go down, right? Android is actually free, so there'll be a lot of the handsets that are made in China or India and those things. They'll just start to incorporate Android, and you see that will be more smartphones that are out there. So, in summary, more people are coming online. That was the first slides, and consuming more content. Social is becoming part of the fabric of the internet, just like search. Right? Search, we don't talk about anymore. But I've looked at the stats. Google's search volumes has not decreased. Number of people who are searching have not decreased. It's actually gone up. Search volumes have gone up. Google still makes more and more money every year from search. So yeah, search is still there. We just don't talk about it anymore. Right? We still do it. Who has stopped using search because of social? Right? I mean, people are always saying, what about search versus social? Like, that's just a whole different thing. Social will just be another thing. It's there. Right? Hopefully we'll stop talking about it. But it'll still be there. E-commerce is still growing. Obviously, in these markets, we're still taking a while to get there. And non-PC usage is increasing. Right? We used to say 3 screens, right? The mobile, the TV, mobile, the PC, and the TV. Now we're saying 4 screens, right? Because it's the mobile, the tablet, the PC, and the TV, right? So yeah, the non-PC traffic will be increasing. And that's pretty much it. Thank you very much. I'll take some questions. Yep.
To the earlier numbers that you all showed, is the whole universe of desktop plus mobile, or is it just desktop? And talking about the overall population, internet population now?
PCs.
Only PCs.
Only PCs. Yeah. We start to, like, I know in India we talk about different numbers because we use numeration. And I think you guys have a research somewhere that shows 100 million internet users. So that includes the mobile. So we base our numbers on 75 million, which is one of the research studies.
Because I saw a gap between numbers, and you also mentioned that internet cafes is not allowed in that, so that's why the universe is
Yep.
small.
Yep. It is. I just didn't present it. Yeah. Well, yeah. No, it's there. Just didn't present it. The only market is Thailand at the moment, and first quarter next year. They're just consuming everything. Yeah, it's mobile, it's online, it's PCs, it's they're consuming everything. Yeah. Anyone else? Cool. Thank you very much.